Welcome back. In this lesson we're going to be looking at Macbeth, Act 1, Scenes 1 to 3. Now look, this is going to be kind of the little start of a television show, which kind of gives you a brief thing of what's just about to happen. So it will be brief. We will look at some of the major events that happen. We will introduce you to the characters in each of the scenes. We'll give you a few major quotations as well, and look at some of the dramatic and literary techniques that Shakespeare uses in the scenes. For my students, the first thing I want you to do is I want you to write in the comment section below what happens in Macbeth. Ready? Pause. And we're out of pause, and we're ready to learn. Giddy up. Scene 1 opens with the three witches, and they're the only characters in what is a very brief scene. However, the witches make a very important statement, and that statement is, fair is foul, and foul is fair. And this is setting up that not everything is as it seems in Macbeth. Now, this is, of course, a paradox, which is a statement that is self-contradictory. How can something be both fair and foul simultaneously? And look, Shakespeare loved these little plays with language, and indeed, look, if you read it backwards, it still reads exactly the same thing. Fair is foul, and foul is fair. Now, the witches' dialogue is spoken in catalectic trochaic tetrameter, which is 7 beats. Boom ba, boom ba, boom ba, boom. Now, Shakespeare often wrote dialogue for supernatural creatures, such as the witches in Macbeth or the fairies in Midsummer Night's Dream. And look, something to watch out for is in the play is, does Macbeth's language start to imitate the metre of the witches as they have influence over him? The characters that are involved in scene 2 are Duncan, the King of Scotland. Now, he's going to be murdered by Macbeth later in the play. Malcolm, Duncan's son. Ross and Lennox, who are Thanes of Scotland, and a Thane is a type of noble. And the Sergeant, who's an injured soldier that brings news of the battle to Duncan. Now, the Sergeant's conversation with Duncan is really important because they describe Macbeth as brave Macbeth, noble Macbeth, and O valiant cousin, worthy gentleman. So they're painting a really positive picture of Macbeth. However, from the witches, we already know that not everything is as it seems. So it's going to be likely that Macbeth won't live up to these accolades, which indeed he doesn't. Now, the language techniques that are used in scene 2, there's some really vivid similes that are used. And remember, a simile is a figure of speech that involves the comparison of one thing with another, using the words like or as. So, doubtful it stood as two spent swimmers that do cling together. Now, this is just comparing how close the battle is to two swimmers that are drowning, they're exhausted, clinging together. As sparrows, eagles, or the hare, the lion, just how noble and brave Macbeth was. Personification also gets used, and obviously personification is giving a non-human thing a human quality. My gashes cry for help is a lovely way of saying that the sergeant was bleeding. The metre that's used is often iambic pentameter in scene 2, because often Duncan's speaking, and generally in Shakespeare, noble characters spoke in blank verse, which is iambic pentameter, which doesn't rhyme. And iambic pentameter has 10 beats. Ba boom, ba boom, ba boom, ba boom, ba boom, ba boom. A short followed by a long. What he hath lost, noble Macbeth hath won. And a good way to remember iambic pentameter is just to place your hand over your heart. Ba boom, ba boom, ba boom. A short beat followed by a long beat. The characters that are involved in Act 1, Scene 3 are the three witches, who are the agents of fate that reveal the truth or part of it. Macbeth, who at this stage is the Thane of Glamis, and he's the protagonist of the entire play. Banquo, who who's a captain of the army and a friend of Macbeth, and Ross and Angus, who are thanes of Scotland. Now, one of the witches foreshadows what's going to happen to Macbeth, and foreshadowing is a warning or an indication of a future event. And the witch is talking about a sailor, and she says, "I will drain him dry as hay, sleep shall neither night nor day." Now, her plan for the sailor foreshadows Macbeth's fate. Macbeth's actions drain his morality and torment him so that he's unable to sleep. Now, this is spoken in, again, catalectic tetrameta, and it's rhyming couplets, where the two lines simultaneously rhyme. Now, the witches make 3 prophecies to Macbeth and Banquo. Number 1, that Macbeth is the Thane of Cawdor. Number 2, that Macbeth will be the King of Scotland. And number 3, that Banquo's descendants will be kings. Now, this meeting between Macbeth and Banquo and the witches is the inciting incident of the play. Now, the inciting incident is the point of the plot that begins the conflict. It is the event that is the catalyst for the protagonist to take action. So, you ask the question, would Macbeth have murdered Duncan and Banquo without the witch's prophecy? I think probably not. So we've got the line here from the play, "All hail Macbeth, thou shalt be king hereafter." Now, initially, Macbeth doesn't believe the witch's prophecies. However, in the act, Ross and Angus turn up and confirm the first prophecy that Macbeth is the Thane of Cawdor. And obviously that was something that the witches said to him, "All hail Macbeth, hail to thee, Thane of Cawdor." Now, a dramatic technique that's used in Act 1, Scene 3 is an aside. Now, an aside is a remark or passage in a play that is intended to be heard by the audience, but is supposed to be unheard by the other characters in the play. So, 2 truths are told as happy prologues to the swelling act of the imperial theme. So think about, what does Macbeth's aside reveal to the audience? The major difficulty that students have with Shakespeare is the difference in language. So I've compiled a bit of a glossary. In scenes 1 and 2, we've got grey malkin and paddock, which is a grey cat and a toad, kerns and gallow glasses, which is light infantry and heavy infantry, gins his reflection, starts to turn to its seasonal course, Bellona's bridegroom, which is bridegroom to the goddess of war, lapped in proof, which is covered in armour. In scene 3, we've got mounched, which is munched, aroint, which is begone, runyon, which is a hag, card, which is a sea chart, penthouse lid, which is an eyelid, bark, which is a boat, Sonel, which is Macbeth's father, corporal, which is bodily or physical, lion the rebel vantage, which is secretly give aid to the rebels, trifles, trivial gifts, swelling act theme, the developing royal drama, cleave, which is fit, pains, service to me, and interim, which is meanwhile. Welcome back. So that was Act 1, Scene 1 to 3 of Macbeth. So it's at this stage in Act 1, we're in the exposition stage. We're being introduced to the setting, introduced to the characters. We've got the inciting incident, which is going to drive the conflict of the play, which of course was the meeting between the 3 witches and Macbeth and Banquo. For my students, I want them to consider the effects of some of Shakespeare's techniques that he uses that were identified in the video. So I'm going to be putting them up now, the 3 questions that I want my students to answer, and my students will be performing Macbeth Acts 1, Scenes 1 to 3 in class in their next lessons. So I really look forward to seeing that. So we'll be having a little question period of the actors who play the different roles. So I want the actors to study up. But look, apart from that, thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video, which is going to be on Act 1, Scenes 4 and 5. Look forward to seeing you then.